Good eye, mates. It's your boy here, and we are back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. Now, today's video is a request from our friend GeoRex3780. So, shoutouts to GeoRex for this request. He's saying that he wants the Dark Season Heroes tier list. So, that's what we're going to go ahead and do today. We're going to do a tier list for all of the Dark Season Mythic Heroes. And we'll also mention a couple of really clutch units you can run on defense teams to help out your defense. So this is the tier list that I came up with for Dark Season. As we can see, we've got Medius leading the pack. He is pretty much a must-run if you intend to run armored units, because with the advent of the Bolt Tower, there's not really much you can do to save yourself unless you're running Medius for on guard. So he's kind of like a must-run with armors, but if you're not, you don't have to necessarily run armors on defense. So if you're running armors, he's there. If not, then you may not really need him. We have Bramimond as well, who is just a monster after his remix. He's like one of the craziest player phases you can run, especially when you're running him on a Catria ball where he can quad and he can hit 4 times in a row or hit twice in a row with the Brave attack, and then he gets the guaranteed follow-up. He's got a ton of DR. He cuts DR in half. This guy is just insane. He's an animal after that remix. We have Triandra as well. These fairy dancers are all really good. Literally, they're just dancers and they fly, so that gives them all the good flyer support, like Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance. You give her Firestorm Dance 3. You could give her Wings of Mercy 4 if you want. There's just so many things you can do with these flying dancers, so it's very nice that every defense season has access to a flying dancer. And then finally, we have Emblem to wrap up the S tier. Emblem should go without saying. Not particularly if you're running one of her, because there are some spaces where the enemies can escape her undefended and also Severance, all the effects of Severance. So if you're running 2 Emblems, however, there's nowhere you can hide, and she's just shutting down all save skills that you're running, and then also inflicting feuds, so it's hard for you to run support units, and then your other units are just going to dominate. She's really good when you're running 2 copies of her on either a Hinoka line or also a Cav line. So those would be the type of defenses where you would want Emblem. Then in the A tier, we have Not. She's still pretty good with Pathfinder, but the flying mobility that we've got access to, like flying warp skills, are just so overtuned right now that they just outclass Pathfinder overall. So you can still get a lot of work out of Pathfinder, obviously. It's still really good. It can extend the range of your allies by 1 space, so particularly Cav lines would still make good use of Pathfinder. But as far as like what most defenses are going for now is just like Medius with an armor save, a far save, and a near save, and then you got Catria to give warping support. Then you have a nuking unit like this guy, for example. So we don't really need Pathfinder as much anymore. We're just relying on warping and doing a lot of damage with Catria's triangle attack. Then in the B tier, this was the most interesting one, is Hell for me, because I'm not really sure where to put her, actually. I feel like she could actually be an A tier unit. I think she may be better than Yune, but I haven't actually used her, and I haven't seen anyone actually using her either after she got her remix, even though I think it's solid enough that she could fit on a team. It's just really awkward with her. Like, she has the ability to warp to enemies, so people have been calling it like Wings of Violence, like the opposite of Wings of Mercy, which is a really interesting effect that she can do. And then she's also just got null follow-up on her C skill now. She's got some workable speed, and you just give her like this encounter, and then she has the effect where she can give herself the passive heal after combat, so she can re-up her miracle over and over. Of course, she's got her weaknesses. She's weak to DR piercing, and she's of course weak to mages that can get by her miracle effect. But other than that, I mean, as long as she's fighting sword, axes, and lances and physical damaging opponents, she is going to be a massive threat. So I'm not sure where to put her. I've got her in B tier for the time being. Maybe you guys have used her yourself and you have a better opinion on her than I do. Then we have Yune in B tier. Of course, she got a really good remix too, but it's mainly just for stat debuffing. She can player phase alright, but she's certainly nowhere near Bramimond level on the player phase, so I've got her down here in B tier. And unfortunately, even though she is a flyer and could run flyer guidance and guidance 4 and things like that, you can't really run it on her because that would give up her C skill, which is the main factor to using her in the first place. So we've got her in B tier, which is still kind of good. And then in the C tier, honestly, we could probably even do this. I'm not going to disrespect her that bad, but yeah, like, Sothis is just the worst. She is not particularly great, and her refine, rather, was, like, one of the worst ever. She got the same refine as Naui for the most part. It's just, like, all stats of 4, distant counter, that's pretty much it. I mean, Naui had some other effects too, but, like, Sothis already nullified effective against dragons, and Sirius is actually a good special. It's just that she can't really make the best use of it, so it's just unfortunate. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at some builds here now. So, when it comes to Medius, like I said, you want to be running him with some save armors so that he can give them on guard and they can avoid the bolt tower. As far as, like, what assists you want to run, it just depends on your team for the most part in Aether Raids. He's already giving attack and res up 6 on his weapon at the start of turn to allies. So, if you're going to give him a rally skill, then defense or speed would be the choices you would want to go for. So, I guess rally up defense, if you want to set up like a rally trap or something like that with him, you could. We have also Kanto control, of course. He comes with it, and it's pretty much a must run on defenses, because every offense is going to have Kanto somewhere. They're going to try to hit and run, so you want to limit that as much as you can. And then distant counter dragons. There's actually quite a lot of things you could do with him, actually. This is not the only build. I wanted to get guard on him, so we have bracing stance there, but you could also go for Fire Flood boost if you want to. But you can run like Pavis on this guy, or Sacred Cowl, and then give him a breath skill, or you could give him deflect melee and turn him into a near save unit with a unit we're going to look at later. So, like, this guy's got some tricks up his sleeve. He's got a lot of options. He's got a lot of builds. This is like the bread and butter, like, you want him to carry himself, be very self-sufficient, but depending on your setup, you could actually get a lot of work out of him in different ways than just doing this. Okay, then we have Bramimond, of course. I've omitted the assist here because you probably want him to move before a dancer who has an assist equipped. So this guy just jumps in with Katria or whoever is giving him warp support, guidance 4, soaring guidance, whatever. Then he jumps in, and then Magic Null follow-up combined with Impenetrable Void gives him 75% DR cut. Also gives him Null follow-up. Then he's just going to clap whoever's cheeks he's attacking. And Luna, this guy works really good with Rally Spectrum as well, by the way, because his weapon gives him -1 special cooldown before he attacks. And then you would get -2 from, whatchamacallit, -2 from Rally Spectrum, because he doesn't have -1 or a Brave attack. So you could just, like, pre-charge Luna on the first attack with nothing else but just him and Rally Spectrum. So, like, this guy is cutting through units. He's very difficult to tank. Like, I was actually going to mention, we're going to talk about more defensive units you can run later. I was going to bring up the remix for Brave Marianne, but I feel like this guy is similar enough to Marianne where you might as well just run him. He's already a defense mythic hero, so he can help your team out a little bit by mitigating the lift loss reduction. So instead of going for Marianne, I feel like this guy is also a valid option for Dark Season. And then just stacking up his defense as much as we can, because even though it's only 21, his defense is actually pretty good when all his effects are taken into account. So he can survive a hit, and then you want to make sure that he does so he can hit the enemies twice. Okay, we have Emblem as well. Like I said, you want to run double Emblem if you're going to run Emblem at all, so that there's nowhere for the enemies to hide from Severance. Flared Sparrow should go without saying. Like, literally every single unit you have access to on a defense team should run Flared Sparrow if it's an option for them. Because just the amount of piled up damage you can do with this is so crazy. Beast Sense 4, I mean, you could still keep her default Beast skill, Beast Agility, which gives her half a null follow-up, which, surprisingly, she did not have on her C skill or her weapon. But Beast Sense makes a lot of sense too, because it gives her speed-based DR, it gives her Phantom Speed Light, and then it reduces the enemy's speed and nullifies her transformation effect. So it's pretty solid still. And then Solo, just to give her some dual phase speed, because she's getting DR from Severance and Beast Sense, so you may be able to survive there. She can player phase pretty well. She can hold her own in combat. She's a nice melee player phaser, but really it's Severance that you're going to be wanting to use her for. Alright, then of course Triandra over here, a dancer, so we're just running all the dance support skills. You don't really need aerobatics on her, but, I mean, why not? Like, just allowing her to warp in. There's not really anything else you would want to give her anyway, maybe like Swift Sparrow or Death Blow or something. She can actually hit pretty good for a dancer. Like, her attack is not so shabby, and then she's getting a lot of debuffs on her weapon. I think she does, like, defense and res -4 to the enemies in cardinal directions of her, which are going to be there when she's attacking them, so she could actually hit relatively hard, so maybe you can get away with that. But you just want her to warp in and dance and then provide Guidance 4 support to everybody else, or Soaring Guidance, whichever you prefer. And the idea here would be to have a unit in slot 7, so they end their turn, and then have her warp into them with aerobatics and then dance. And then Firestorm Dance would let her Kanto to a better spot, and then you can begin chaining warp shenanigans with Guidance 4 and start extending your reach and messing with the foes. So, very dangerous stuff there. And then, of course, as I said, we have the Pathfinder support with Not here. So, Kanto Control, if you're going to run her, you pretty much have to. There are other C skills you could give her if you want her to fight better, but, I mean, you might as well just run Kanto Control, because the only real place you would want Pathfinder right now is Cavlines or, like, some weird, funky, like, flyer setups. Not the ones that use Charge, but, like, different ones. Maybe if you're running Snap, actually, Snap could be pretty cool with Pathfinder. So, just some weird setups that want to just actually use real mobility. There's also the 4 movement cavalry types like Brave Seliph and the Summer Ephraim that could make good use of Pathfinder. So, those are the type of units you would want to use her with. So, Kanto Control fills up the slack on those teams where you're running mostly cavalry or flyer types. And then we just ditch her B skill completely for Close Call 4. Her B skill is just a worse version of Close Call 4 at this point, so there's no reason not to. Special Spiral 4 could also work out pretty well if you want to run that, so that could be an option. Also, Vital Astro with Rally Spectrum support is very good on her, so she could kind of hold her own a little bit in combat. And then Even Tempest is just there to get a mix-up if you want to catch people off guard. They're not expecting her to just gain movement out of nowhere. So you can just get a free KO there pretty easy on a dancer or something. Okay, we don't want to look at her yet. We'll save the worst for last. So we have Yune over here. I actually had Hell in front of Yune. Maybe we should look at Hell first. So Hell can kind of do a dual phase thing where you've got like distant counter, and then we got double solos here. The idea would be she's going to use her Wings of Violence to warp to an enemy, and then we've got like double attack speed solo with distant counter, so she can like kind of dual phase for herself pretty well. Guard Bearing 4 should make a lot of sense there. Just get some DR so you can make sure you're able to get the miracle if the enemies would possibly like kill you in one shot. They're not going to be able to. Then the Null Follow-Up kicks in, and you can hit them twice, and then you recover 7 HP after combat. So she can kind of like re-up her sustain, re-up her miracle over and over, but I'm not really too sure how effective she actually is. I have not used her since her remix, and I haven't really seen her being used either, so I can't really comment too well on this, but on paper, she should be fine. Alright, then Yune over here, we've got Wings of Mercy 4, so she can actually warp in. You can't run Guidance 4 or Soaring Guidance without giving up Chaos Name, so you might as well have another way for her to warp in if the allies can't warp to her. Sturdy Impact works really well with Chaos Manifest, because it blocks enemies' follow-up and then gives her 10 raw defense, which is pretty helpful. 15 defense is not the best, obviously, so getting the plus 10 there and all the DR that she can get when she's got in combat against like enemies with massive debuffs on them, she can hold her own kind of well. She can survive hits that you would not believe she would be able to, so it can work out sorta. And then Iceberg, if you've got Rally Spectrum support, is also really good. Her Bane is still null follow-up though. Like, if the enemies have null follow-up, then she's in big trouble, so you gotta watch out for that. And then finally, this bum. She's sitting on that throne. She should have just stayed there, honestly. We didn't need her to get up from her seat. So, yeah, like this is probably the best you can do for her. There's other things, I guess, like maybe Special Spiral 4 if you want to try to nuke with her. Give her, like, Time Pulse 4 and then have Rally Spectrum support so she just hits with Sirius right away and turns off all DR. But the no follow-up does help her a little bit because she is she's trying to be a dual phaser with the DC and the all stats, but nah, man, I don't really know about Sothis. I don't think she's worthwhile. If you've got her at plus 10, maybe, but, like, otherwise, just don't bother. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at some clutch units you can run to really strengthen your defense teams for Darkness Season. Of course, this Brave Robin should go without saying. How many times did I mention Rally Spectrum while we were looking at all the defense mythics? So that should just go without saying. The idea with this build would be that Null Follow-Up is the one thing he's missing on his kit, so you give him that. He jumps to an ally with Rally Spectrum, then he attacks. He's got built-in tempo, he's getting -2 from Rally Spectrum. So he hits the foe, they hit him, and then his next attack is an Ignis Bigness to the face that blows them up. Nullifies DR, has adaptive damage, and it's just lights out for them. He's also just providing an insane amount of support to the team with Rally Spectrum. Like, this guy is one of the most annoying things you can see on a defense team, so definitely worthwhile. Sorin as well. Like I said, you can turn Medius into a save unit with Sorin if you want to, and it works out kind of decently, so you don't have to run, like, double armors. You just run one other armor, and that gives you space for another offensive unit. And Sorin is a pretty good offensive threat himself. He's got a Brave attack. He's able to nullify adaptive damage, so he can really mess with Dragon-type units. He cuts DR in half there. He's got Flare to get a little sustain for himself. He's turning people into save units. He's giving them all stats up 6. Like, this guy is just really, really bananas. So he helps out defenses pretty well also. And depending on how you want to set up your team, like how you got your units set up, you can get some really degenerate units into save units with him. So, like, Duo Asker would be one. Duo Ymir would be one. Like, just the sky is the limit with who you can turn into save units with him. And the more support you're getting out of the save units, like Duo Asker, as we brought up, is giving the pulse support. Then he's giving Resonant Blades and Resonant Shields as well. Like, that's just crazy. So you want to really just optimize how many things you can get out of each unit on the team, and this guy allows that with spades. Okay, then we have Eliwood over here. So the baby Eliwood is surprisingly pretty good, because there's a lot of dragon and beast units we can run here. Emblem, of course, if you're running Cav lines, then you can actually get away with Eliwood on there, and then Emblem would be turning off saves, and then this guy is giving bonus doubler to 2 people on the team, himself and somebody else. And then there's also Medius, who, like we said with the Brave Sorin, you can turn him into a save unit, and then you can also double up by giving him bonus doubler and things like that. So it's actually pretty annoying dealing with this guy when he's got bonus doubler support. But of course, you can be giving it to somebody else too. It's not like he's the only target. You just need a dragon on the team for this guy to start giving out his supports. So, like that, don't sleep on this guy, man. He's actually pretty competent. He's also really nice in combat as well. He's getting a lot of stat bonuses. He could get, like, all stats up 17 or something crazy like that. And then he's got DR, and then he's got null follow-up. So, like, this guy is pretty real. Then we have also Fallen Maria, another nice unit to run on the Medius save balls, because she can provide the miracle support to allies. So you run her, and then I just gave her a bunch of, like, res boosting skills so we could actually get defense and res ploy on her. Her base res is okay. It's only like 35, but when you've got double still water, it shoots up quite a bit. And then blessings can shoot her res up even further. So yeah, it's pretty easy for her to get def res ploy to activate, and then she's just providing that support with the miracle and the healing and all that good stuff. So she can be a real annoying unit on the Medius save balls. And then finally, of course, I mean, were you expecting anybody else? So we have Bride Catria here. Of course, her warping and her triangle attack support is still, like, one of the best things you can run for a defense team. There's also Cordelia as well. If you would prefer to run Cordelia, you can go ahead and do that. So either one is fine. But the amount of warping you can do, and then on top of that, getting the triangle attack support, this is like the mainstay for defense teams. So you would run Medius, you would run whatever save units you want. I was going to say like double armors, but with Sorin, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And then your offensive threats are going to be being buffed like massively by Catria. Flared Sparrow is an option for her, of course. She's a flying melee type. And then aerial maneuvers is pretty nice too, because if she's giving herself the brave attack, she can just quad right there. And it also allows her to warp into allies. We should probably give her a rally skill here, because you can set up a rally trap pretty easily when you've got like aerial maneuvers and soaring guidance and all that. So yeah, you could go ahead and do that if you want to. And then she's just like a monster. She's also allowing you to run Duo's Hindrance, being a duo hero. So that's going to wrap us up for this video, guys. We went over some solid defense units you can run, and then we went over the tier list for the Dark Season Mythic Heroes. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and also if you have a request for a video you want me to do, go ahead and leave that in the comments as well. So this is your boy Tacho signing out. Take care, fellas, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.